Together. No, just bypassing all of those qualities that would be handicapping an uglier person. Cartoon Network in the mid-2010s made a hard pivot to produce and air shows that were story-driven, character-driven, that had heaps and heaps of world-building and lore and craft poured into them. Shows like Ben 10 Alien Force, Adventure Time, The Amazing World of Gumball, and then later on the miniseries like Summer Camp Island and Infinity Train. It made it feel like a really special time to be a kid home alone in their room, wasting precious hours and even days on end. It made me a better writer. It made me more curious about the world around me and its hidden possibilities. I have no idea why Cartoon Network decided to build their studios up as a haven for experimental storytelling and for diverse art styles with their own quirks and lovable traits. And I didn't look into it for this video. As far as I'm concerned, that's a mysterious act of God's love that I accept without question. You can go look the gift horse in the mouth if it pleases you, but I am going to move forward with gratitude. Hi, my name is Dee Dee, I'm the Hot Messayist, and today I'm going to be zooming way in on one show and really one character that I and many other people return to every year in the fall around Halloween when things get all cozy and chilly outside, and you want to watch something that is aesthetically beautiful and soothing, but in its content is so frightening. Today we're going to talk about Wirt from Over the Garden Wall. Over the Garden Wall first aired in 2014. It was created by Katie Krentz and Patrick McHale. It's a mini-series, and the main character, Wirt, is a boy whom I watch and feel a chilling sense of recognition in my body. His unending catastrophe, his permanent slouch, his baffling delusions. Well, I'll just say all of that hits really close to home. The writers lovingly crafted a near-perfect depiction of the teenaged poet, and it makes me grimace and cringe every single time. And it's okay. It's okay, I can say that because I was one. What we can also glean from spending these few moments over the wall with Wirt is that we are spending time with a deeply, deeply neurotic boy. And in the end, we feel nothing but compassion for him. As the show opens, in our first episode, we find Wirt walking through the woods and describing himself as twisting towards an endless black sea. However melodramatic this is, you really can't deny his depth of feeling about his situation, and research on the personality trait neuroticism, our word of the day, in psychology tells us that it is a belief that manifests as a pervasive perception that the world is a dangerous and threatening place, along with beliefs about one's inability to cope with or manage challenging events. Or at least that's how Dr. David Barlow, a PsyD at Boston University, would put it. I can't speak for other folks, but if I thought that the world was an inherently dangerous and threatening place, and I thought that I had no skills to cope with it, I would probably also say things like, "We are but wayward leaves scattered to the air by an indifferent world." Time for the Wirt facts. Wirt is a suburban teenage boy. The show never mentions his exact age, but personally I would put him at about 14 purely based on the way that he says, "I'm like in high school," in response to Auntie Whispers saying that he stinks like a child. He lives with his mother, his stepfather, and his little half-brother, Greg. They don't say Greg's age either, but I would size him up at about 6 to 8, purely based on his outlook on life, the things that he could do, things like that. Wirt has a crush on a girl that's cooler than him. He has an impromptu Halloween rivalry with a boy that has not hit puberty yet. More on that later. And he had to make his Halloween costume last minute because he honestly wasn't even planning on going out. I gather that Wirt's meekness is inherent to him in some way. There's no hidden hubris or bravado or anything so drastically different between his affect and his inner world. He's a kid that shows a lot of hesitance when confronted with the unfamiliar. He expresses a huge amount of worry, even when things seem to be going in his favor, and it leads me to wonder how these thought patterns even developed in the first place. We don't really know anything about Wirt's birth father, but we can surmise that at some point in his young life there was a jarring shift in caretakers. Based on Greg's approximate age, this probably happened a good while back, but it must have been pretty distressing in order for him to handle stress like a rusted trampoline spring. Any little upset in life sends him spiraling into despair and pontificating on how nothing will ever go right for him again, blah, 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 blah. Dr. Barlow describes this response in so many words. It's important to note that this hyperexcitability of neural circuits in response to stress and fear results not only from genetic factors or biological predispositions, but also from stressful or traumatic experiences during critical stages of development. That is, early adversity sculpts the stress response, which seems to underpin the neurotic phenotype. Along with that, findings from a number of areas of research, including animal and human studies, support the key role of unpredictability and uncontrollability in developing anxiety or neuroticism. A diminished sense of predictability and controllability appears to adversely affect stress hormone functioning in children and leads to negative emotionality. Early adversity and parenting behaviors have been shown to influence children's perception of control, and associated cognitive styles, therefore, increasing their risk or their resilience. Tell me something I don't know, right? But really, it's quite clear that Wirt pretty much always feels as though there is a wild gorilla on the loose, just off screen. And maybe this is why, when he is actually put in that situation in Schooltown Follies, he also finds his zen. In Schooltown Follies, he decides that he will say yes to anything that anyone ever asks of him. And he mainly does this despite Beatrice, but hey, negative emotionality is a mixed bag, and coping skills develop by their own means. I think he's valid. Close to the end of the episode, he starts to see the benefit in releasing his white-knuckle grip on everything. He even goes so far as to say, "Maybe I'll never give this up." To which Greg adds, "Wirt's right, never give up." And I have to take a small detour to get into this dialogue here because, trust me, it's a rich text. This exchange is emblematic of the brothers' entire dynamic, where Wirt is an eternal pessimist, and he turns to the affirmative for once, but still his mind frames that change as a never. Maybe I'll never give this up. Maybe I'll never be the same again. Maybe I'll never say no again. He can't help himself. He's a neurotic. Greg, on the other hand, hears never. Immediately, he's reframed it as not yet. Along with that, he automatically affirms his big brother and says Wirt's right, even though he's not even technically agreeing with Wirt. Wirt's right. Never give up. I go with Wirt to the end of the line. I'm with Wirt. And also, giving up never even crossed my mind. He's the whole world's round and special boy, and I love him dearly. What can you believe with no evidence? With no evidence, Wirt can always believe that he has gotten himself into a situation from which there is no escape. And in the first couple episodes especially, he puts up absolutely no resistance to this notion at all. Like when they first get to Pottsfield, and because it looks super creepy, he's convinced that something bad is going to happen to them. Nothing bad happens to them. They are greeted by the townsfolk. They've transgressed the town by crashing their weird pumpkin party. They get a modest punishment, and it turns out to be pleasant in its own right. But the whole time, because we're still seeing things from Wirt's point of view, we're waiting for the other shoe to drop. There's a sense of impending doom in a completely holistic community. At the end, during their would-be escape attempt, Wirt literally thinks that he is shackled and abandoned by his companions when he's not at all. It's worth noting how even the research on neuroticism runs into the utter unpredictability of the thing. When a person truly believes that they are at the mercy of a hostile future and that they can't predict how that belief will change the outcomes they deal with, they're wandering the unknown in more ways than one. Now let's get into the particular genius of the fact that Wirt, Greg, and Beatrice's entire journey together is a traumatic event unfolding. Wirt and Greg are sinking to the bottom of a frigid pond. They're out cold after tumbling down a hill and being nearly hit by a freight train. So anyone's amygdala would be firing off signals like a machine gun regardless of their general disposition. But this also turns into a test of the outer limits of Wirt's neuroticism. And once he hits that border, what will he find beyond it? Before the brothers even get to their fated fall, Wirt and Greg are caught up in a whole other type of spiral. At the big Friday night football game, Wirt and Greg run into three girls who have a lot of information from no discernible source that Jason Funderberker just asked out Wirt's crush that he was planning to confess his feelings to. Now we could get into the trope of the three crones from classic mythology, and how they weave that in expertly to set the course of events in motion. We could talk about that. We don't have time today, so I'll leave it where it is, but it hurts me to do so. What we can talk about is how it was never guaranteed that Wirt gave the tape to Sarah and told her that he liked her. Because when he heard that the Weird Sisters had put the tape in her jacket, he sounded a lot like he wanted to back out. I don't know how he convinced himself that he would do that. No sale. No sale. I cannot imagine, as he stood at that point in the night, that he really would have looked Sarah in her pretty brown face and said it. I don't know how he convinced himself that he would. From this moment, Jason Funderberker is the object of Wirt's disdain, his fear, his inferiority complex, all of it. And we've probably all been there, but to watch a character that you otherwise like go through this is excruciating. It's like, just be honest with the other character that you like. Do it for me. Be bold. His fear of not being good enough in general shapes itself into a one-sided rivalry with Jason. The neurotic piece of his personality feels a rapid loss of control, whether he ever really had control or not, and that has him scared, shook, and panicking. Within the next 5 to 10 minutes, he says, "Is the dove never to meet the sea for want of the odious mountain?" In which he is the dove, Sarah is the sea, and Jason Funderberker is the odious mountain, to which I can only say, oh my God, stand up. Quote, "He's the total package. I can't compete." His cognition is distorted. Quote, "Sarah and Jason Funderberker are going to start dating, and then they'll hear that tape, and then they'll just sit and listen to it and laugh and laugh and laugh and laugh." He's catastrophizing, and then he's obsessing over the situation that he just imagined all by himself. Quote, "My life is crumbling all around me." Is it? Is it really? Once you've had about all you can take of cringing and self-recognition, the episode serves you its central contradiction on a silver platter. The hugely shocking and also satisfying revelation that Jason Funderberker is a turbo shrimp. He's little. He's nasal. He has a weird bob haircut. He has a meek spirit overall. The only reason he's been the antagonist throughout this entire series is because in one moment, he had a little bit more confidence than Wirt. Like a molecule more, honestly. Jason Funderberker is not standing in the way of Wirt confessing his feelings. Jason Funderberker couldn't stand in the way of anything. He's like 4'11". Almost all of Beatrice's mean-spirited comments so far seem to have been correct. Wirt's kind of acting like a loser. In the very last episode, The Unknown, the arc completes itself in a few satisfying ways. After Wirt all but gives up, in a move that is in keeping with his established personality, he rapidly turns the corner towards heroism. This is a side of Wirt that moves from a place of gratitude. He's not endlessly critiquing those that try to help him anymore, even if he doesn't quite understand why their information is relevant to him right now. Even after he correctly guessed that the beast soul was in fact the one contained in the lantern, he decides to test his assumption by blowing towards it and seeing the beast's reaction. At the beginning of the story, he would not have had the wherewithal to do that. He'd have been caught up in the beast's lies, in Beatrice's lies, in his own lies, and just like his ideas about Funderberker, he would have let his imagination run wild, and probably become afraid of the lamp itself, much like the woodsman who's ruled by the fear of losing his daughter. After seeing the beast's reaction, he knows that his view of the world holds real weight and that he can have an impact on his surroundings. His honesty extends to himself more than anyone, as he admits to Beatrice's mother and Into the Unknown that he's not been a good big brother. This moment of honesty then extends beyond itself and leads him back to Greg to save both of them from the beast's trap. Upon meeting Beatrice's family and getting a small glimpse into her journey and why she felt that she had to betray the boys in the first place, Wirt gratefully accepts the dirt from her mother and begins trekking through a blizzard to get his brother back. He's thankful to Beatrice for sticking with him, despite the circumstances that caused her to betray them. Along with that, Wirt's way more interested in the evidence that leads him towards concrete answers rather than his assumptions that lead him to his own personal catastrophes. Our hopeful romantic Wirt is more honest. When he gives Adelaide's scissors back to Beatrice, he's honest about why he felt he had to hide them from her, and he's honest in the act of freeing his friend from her curse. He decides to do the right thing in the end, in total acknowledgement that he's not the only person who's walking a difficult path. In the end, the loveliest lies of all are the things that we choose to believe that lead us towards love, connection, brotherhood, and authenticity. We believe these things even in the most dire circumstances, and really, that's when we find them to be most true.